They are destroying your games. Who is they? I don't know, but I definitely believe that.
This particular video comes at a bit of an inopportune time. See, the concept of them destroying your games could refer to a lot of things, especially for those engaged in the political side of gaming commentary, but for the sake of clarity here, I'm talking about publishers, and I'm also not hovering on the brink, metaphorically speaking. Publishers are, quite literally here, destroying games, rendering them unplayable for you, and thereby, in my opinion, stealing your money.
Yeah, I agree with that in general. Yeah, publishers insert a lot of different things in games because they want it to be more profitable and more accessible to everyone, and more brain damaged in a lot of cases.
While circumventing whatever laws they can in the process, or more descriptively, taking advantage of a regulatory environment where laws to protect the purchases that you make in this category don't seem to effectively be defined at all. It sounds kind of extreme to some, but it's actually a very pressing issue that rose to prominence over the past 15 or so years, give or take. There's plenty of individual examples here, but the best way to start is by showcasing the general industry transformation. Video games have undergone a colossal shift from a physical medium to a digital one. In the past, you had hardware that played the game, files contained on a physical storage device, and a subsequent experience that was effectively irrevocable, for lack of a better word. But now, the transition has been made to an almost purely digital medium, even so far as an open acknowledgement that the physical world of distribution for video games will probably die out completely.
It will not die out completely, but it's gonna be more niche and niche and niche.
Simultaneously, the industry is also witnessing a genre shift. This part is a bit more contentious, I'd say, but the general behavior we see from major publishing companies appears to be hyper-fixated on games as a service instead of games as a product, which exacerbates the problem of requiring constant internet connections or otherwise forcing dependence on the publisher directly instead of allowing agency over the product that you.
Yeah, we know this. They want stability, and games as a service is probably the most stable way of income anyone can actually achieve. So, there you go. It does make sense to them. Now, it's bad for us, but it does make perfect sense for them.
Purchased for yourself. They explicitly do not want to sell you something and subsequently allow you to control it. They would rather sell temporary access to something.
Why? Why is the graphics footage here so bad?
And then make unilateral decisions about the future of that service with zero accountability. See, it used to be, if you purchased a video game, you had that game until you made a mistake and broke the hardware, like literally and physically. In some ways that's inconvenient, yes, and modern digital systems allow you to access accounts from any device through login credentials, thereby increasing your relative convenience while doing so. But in other ways, it provided security, because the thing you had ownership of really couldn't be discretionarily revoked by a third-party publisher. Nowadays,
that stopped, honestly, the moment the internet became a big thing and people started using it constantly. The game that you currently own on a disc and you think you own it, yeah, good luck getting your account banned on whatever publisher's radar that game is, and then congratulations, suddenly you understand, wait a minute, my hard copy of this game doesn't magically work. It doesn't matter if you have a disc with the game on it. Most games currently that are on discs can still be taken away from you if you do something bad and the publisher or the owner doesn't like it. You can still be banned. A disc doesn't mean you're going to be able to play it, even if it's a single-player game, by the way. And this has already been the huge switch for I don't know how long. It just happens rarely, but they have obviously the ability to do this.
That's no longer true. And like I said earlier, there's a ton of individual examples to choose from, but I'll just pick a few that I have personal experience with. Before continuing on, today's video is made possible by Incogni, which is an online privacy and data protection service.
Amazing.
Every day, without link down below in the description and to Incogni for that. Again, link down below and promo code Echelon for 60% off your subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. First up is an example that most contemporary gamers will probably be aware of, and that's Warzone. Call of Duty Warzone is a household name at this point. One of the more disruptive moments in the game's history was when Activision completely shut down the original Warzone experience in favor of its sequel. Now, for some that's inconsequential, but the key factor we need to consider is that when doing this, they also revoked access to a very, very large number of in-game purchases that many players had made, rendering them not just useless, but completely gone. Some people were upset, others weren't, but the idea of purchasing something you want to use and then having it be rendered completely useless by the issuing company at any point in the future that they arbitrarily choose with no communication to you about it if they don't want to, well, it starts to feel kind of strange. Let's move on to
Even with communication, that's kind of shitty.
Evolve. Evolve was an asymmetrical PvP experience where hunters would take down a monster, and from my perspective, it was kind of an interesting game. However, in 2023, published on the 2K support website, it was announced that Evolve would be taken offline.
Dude, it was, but it flopped so hard. Was this game dead in less than a year, I think?
Permanently.
Because Evolve had a fundamental problem. The premise is great, right? One player is the monster, and he gets to hunt. Well, initially, he gets to run away and survive from the 4 hunters, but then he evolves, as the game title suggests, and, at stage 2 or 3, they fight. And then the monster is supposed to kill the hunters. Now, that's a great premise, but who the fuck doesn't want to play the monster? Well, everyone wants to play the monster, obviously. And they pushed Evolve as an esports when it came out. And how the hell do you do an esports where there's a monster and then there's 4? How do you do this again?
The servers would be shut down, and the thing that people spent their money on would cease to function properly. Sure, certain components of the game would still function, but after a very long back and forth with the fan community, 2K would now be destroying the ability for players to engage with each other, even on peer-to-peer servers, which had previously been supported, marking the removal of a product function that people had paid for, simply because the company decided, we don't want to deal with this anymore. How about another one? The Cycle. This one hits close to home because I actually liked this game. I played it, I reviewed it, but come to find out in September of 2023, they killed it. Steam is actually full of reviews where people are lamenting the fact that it's gone, and sure, it was technically free to play as an experience, but they had microtransaction bundles from $10 all the way up to $100, and everything you purchased is now entirely useless, regardless of what it was or how much it cost. I can go a little bit more rapid fire here, but the examples of what I'm talking about are everywhere. EA shuts down...
Honestly, I don't understand the people who get super pissy about the idea that, I buy this bunch of pixels and now these pixels should be mine for the end of time. That's the same as buying food, eating it, and then being sad you shat it out, to a degree. At least that's how I kind of look at it. Obviously, it's not the same deal, but in my eyes, it's kind of similar. You cannot expect something to last forever. You do not buy a car and expect it to last forever. You do not buy anything and expect it to last forever. So why would pixels in a game honestly be different? Now, admittedly, I know that's probably not a popular opinion, but I don't buy microtransactions in the first place. In my lifespan of 30 years, I don't think I have spent more than $500 total on any kind of microtransactions. Probably less than 100 on just blatant microtransactions, honestly. I can't even remember what have I actually bought that's a microtransaction of, any kind. I think the last I bought was a Lost Ark skin.
Games in literal batches, like Bad Company 2, Dead Space 2, and Crysis 3. Indie games, such as Spellbreak, for example, that were gobbled up by the Epic Games Store have their servers officially shut down. Thankfully, the developers...
Oh yeah, this game kind of looked good, but then it kind of didn't.
...created a standalone version where players can host their own servers for that one, which is great. You'd love to see that. But even more extreme, companies like Warner Brothers will delist over a dozen games under the Adult Swim banner in this case, while deliberately refusing to transfer those games back to the developers in order to keep them active and playable. Warner Brothers just doesn't care about the games, or the playability, or preservation.
I mean, we talked about this, and I fully do not also care, honestly, about these indie games.
In general. And they're taking advantage of a regulatory environment where there are no protections for any of these things. They can just render content unplayable and obsolete on a whim with no recourse. As if that weren't enough, or to really drive home the existence of a general shift here, PlayStation took a fairly unprecedented step recently where they revoked the digital access license for a demo of Stellar Blade. The details here are a bit complicated, but the gist of it is this.
Oh yeah,
Stellar
I remember
Blade
this.
released a demo to the PlayStation Store early, presumably by mistake in this case. People obviously downloaded the file very quickly, but then Sony revoked everyone's access, causing the game to become unplayable for anyone even connected to PSN, which even booted some people out of the demo mid-session. That's called a kill switch. And yes, it's a demo, it's not a paid product in particular, but the point I'm trying to illustrate is that there is a
Okay. I want you to answer me a very specific question in this case. If you are playing a free-to-play game, you have not spent any money on it, does the developer of that game have the right to just boot you out of it? You know, just shut down the servers even though you were enjoying it. I wonder how people would answer that question. Just to see. It's not a complicated question. It's not even that deep. I just want to see how people would answer. Should they be allowed to do it? Should they not be allowed to do it? How does that exactly work?
consistently evolving shift across the majority of the video game industry, where the things that you play are not products anymore. You do not own them, and they can be either shut down, revoked, or transformed at the sole discretion of a publisher without warning, rendering the product unplayable or any amount of content you spent money on completely void. That is a disturbing prospect to me, and it simply did not happen a couple decades ago. One more example, which then becomes the jumping off point for what can you do to stop it, because the fantastic part of this video is that there are a set of actions that you can take thanks to a dedicated YouTuber named Ross who runs a channel called Accursed Farms. The Crew, that's the catalyst here, because in late 2023, Ubisoft announced that they would be shutting down the game.
Oh no.
The Crew is actually a very large, very successful game, or it was over the span of its lifetime, which means there's a lot of people who own it, a lot of people who played it, and a lot of people who enjoyed it. That's a perfect storm, because Ubisoft is also headquartered in France, not the United States, which helps in terms of consumer recourse. And all things combined, it presents us with a bit of a perfect storm opportunity. I'm going to put a link down below to the video on Ross's channel. This guy is good. I would highly encourage everyone to watch that video and other content that he posts, but here's the bullet points of what matter the most. Ross worked very hard, consulted
Bro doesn't even have YouTube Premium, but has vidIQ. What do you mean?
legal experts and hunted down specific complaint portals.
vidIQ is so useless.
Devised a series of actions that will give the gaming industry a very real shot at sparking some sort of intervention aimed at stopping publishers from just shutting down games. This is the most comprehensive effort I've ever seen on the topic. He's got a very well laid out website called stopkillinggames.com with 2 G's between killing and games, which is also linked down below, importantly. And he's done all the legwork needed for viewers to help as quickly and conveniently as possible. It is very easy to take action right now. It mostly consists of petitions and complaints, which are outlined perfectly on the website, and I won't explain all the gory details right now. He's already done that very thoroughly, but the main point here is that when discussing this topic, it's typically...
Holy! 12 steps? Are you kidding me? Bro, if you put people a choice between burning down their house and doing a 12-step fucking thing, most people are gonna burn down that house.
A very defeatist mentality. Normally, the criticism of gaming industry trends, which I myself am guilty of, is just criticism, zero action. But thanks to Ross, we have an actual shot at making a difference right now, so this is no longer a simple display of hollow criticism, it's a call to action. Video games are shifting to a purely digital medium, but with that, in conjunction with certain trends like live service games, always online servers, etc., with that, they are increasingly vulnerable when it comes to planned or deliberate obsolescence. Games are no longer being made as products. They are often being made deliberately as services. But these companies are intentionally operating in a retail consumer gray area of sorts by allowing everyone to keep thinking it's a product and leaning into that idea as hard as they can, still, while completely ignoring even the most basic...
I don't know about that. I disagree with that, in fact, blatantly. I don't think any live service game is advertising itself as, hey, buy this and own it forever. I don't think they're doing that. I haven't seen that ever done. I don't think even people think that, honestly. When you see Suicide Squad kill the Justice League, are you thinking, wow, I'm gonna own that forever? Hell no. Hell no.
Basic concept of preservation, even so far as to make it impossible to preserve some games, where the community is openly willing to shoulder that burden themselves if even given the option. What makes all this even more fitting is that this trend, where ownership of games is quickly evaporating completely, is an area where Ubisoft Director of Subscriptions Philip Tremblay said, quote, "One of the things we see is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game." End quote. That is just...
Oh yeah, this is well, it's Ubisoft. Ubisoft are complete retards. Let's be completely real at the end of the day. At the end of the day, and well, hey, I said this previously. Pirate shit. I'm never paying for Netflix. I'm never paying for Amazon Prime or whatever the hell that's called, their movie shit. I'm not paying for anything if I can pirate it. I'm definitely never paying for any Ubisoft product in my goddamn life. You can be sure about that. Someone's gonna, if it's a live service game, someone's gonna pirate it. Someone's gonna make it single player. Enjoy yourself. Just pirate it. There are plenty of sites where you can do that. And I'm obviously speaking in complete metaphors. I don't know what the word pirating even means, and everything I say should not be taken seriously. But, you know, just find it. If we don't own the games that we pay for in any way, then well, pirating is not a problem because they don't own the games that they are selling. So, I'm completely fine with this.
Just quite frankly baffling to me, because Ubisoft is a company that absolutely embraces the concept of deleting content and progress, evidenced quite clearly by their full-scale shutdown of a game that had 12 million copies sold, and yet the industry has become so complacent during this shift, they seem to think that no one could ever fight back. Well, once again offering high praise here to Ross at Accursed Farms, now you can.
Well, the ability to and doing are completely different things.
More and more games are shutting down constantly, and typically that's a result of poor performance, but the underlying logic of it all is that gaming companies want to maximize profits, which means that any always online game that runs afoul of that particular initiative can just get chopped. Companies don't want to spend even minimal resources to ensure continuity of access to products that they themselves are selling, and I think it's time they're held accountable for these practices and forced. Doesn't matter what they want to do.
Would be good, but you know.
They should be forced to do it.
Probably not happening.
To offer preservation tools of some kind, or clearly articulate timelines of deletion before selling a product, or some form of accountability here. I don't think it's a very controversial thing to say that you should not have to buy something and wonder, gosh, I don't know, when's it...
Well, to be fair, every single live service game has a very distinctively visible shutdown period. If it launches bad and you pre-ordered it, that's on you, Chief. You're an idiot. Never pre-order any games. Stop. Okay? If you're mad about this but you keep pre-ordering games, I honestly don't know what to tell you. You need to rethink a couple of decisions. But if you don't pre-order a game and it launches and you can see it's an absolute flop, you know it's going to get shut down in a year or two or maybe 3. So, you know, if you're worried about not being able to play a shit game in 5 years, don't buy it.
They're going to stop working forever. I mean, I like playing it, and it's been advertised as a live service, which insinuates perpetuity, or at the very least a long time frame, but I wonder if they'll just delete it all after a year or 2, because it's not convenient anymore for them to support, and I'll lose the game as well as everything I spent money on inside it. You should not have to wonder that. And the fact that these companies have skirted any sort of accountability on this topic for so long is kind of baffling. Anyway, the point here is to say that the video game industry very deliberately deletes content it sold you for full price without warning, without clarity, and without regret. Up till now, there's been very little recourse available, but thanks to the efforts of some dedicated enthusiasts and primarily a high-quality YouTuber.
It is what it is. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Hey, if this works, good. But the insane history of Netflix. Oh, I have not seen this. Interesting. Anyway, that was Upper Echelon. This was Kuzer Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye bye.